Art Heists and Hairballs, written by Bailey Booth, performed by Jillian Yetter. Chapter 2. Are you coming out with us tonight, Addie? Brooke asked. I thought Casey had a date. She rolled her eyes. He canceled. I need to stop swiping on this stupid site. Maybe we should set you up with Dr. Oliver. I waggled my brows. We could, but he's only got eyes for the animals. And Addie, Brooke added, and I groaned. Don't lie. The two of you have shared some longing looks that have nothing to do with veterinary business. I can't date him. If it goes bad, we'll have no one to help with the animals. So are you coming with us? Brooke waggled her brows. Add tonight to my ever-growing collection of rain checks. Casey waved her hand and tossed her apron into the hamper. We're never getting her to go out after work. I swear, when I get my Boost Your Self-Confidence course finished, I'm giving you a free pass. My confidence is fine. You don't want an old lady hanging around with you. At 32, I was 10 years older than my coworkers. We had a ton of fun at work, but I was their boss, and there were supposed to be boundaries, which was why all I could share with the adorable doctor was those looks. The funny thing was, I hated rules. I ditched my brokerage job for that reason. But now that I was in charge, rules sometimes came in handy. Persephone told me who her owner is, and I want to see if I can contact her. Persephone? Casey raised a brow. Persephone. Whoever named her has a sense of humor. And they're probably missing her. That's a valid reason to bail. You'll come out with us next weekend, then? Brooke bounced on her toes, giving me her most hopeful look. I came home to New Hampshire to embrace my socially awkward self. After working all week, I'm super happy to veg out in front of my cooking shows. You don't even cook. I like to eat. I had a little bit of a takeout problem. I reframed it. I support local businesses. You know where to find us if you change your mind, or if Persephone has more to say. Brooke winked at me on her way out the door. Casey waved and followed. Tonight, I had a date with a cat. I knew better than to show up empty-handed. After a quick trip to the supermarket to stock up on solid tuna and oil, I returned to Helping Paws. This would be easier if I could bring Persephone home as a foster, but I lived in the in-law apartment above my sister's garage. And in exchange for jaw-droppingly cheap rent, she forbade me from bringing any animals home with me. She insisted her kids were allergic to everything. But I had a feeling it was her way of making sure I didn't get comfortable up there. The crack of the can got a few curious meows from our other feline residents. Persephone's new travel case was still sitting on the front table. I didn't see the point in getting her acclimated, since I'd most likely be bringing her home over the weekend. Hope you're good with sharing, I said when I opened the door to the kennel. Persephone rubbed against my hand. I probably smelled like the good stuff. As long as you got enough for everyone. Can you understand what they say? Of course I can. Tell me everything. Having a translator would be amazing, and I had to make use of my short time with Persephone. She had a home, and it was my job to reunite her with it. The one next to Harriet wants to be moved. Says she snores. Marcy at the end is afraid of the dark. Oh, I'll find a nightlight and do a little rearranging before I left for the night. Maybe I could make a deal with Persephone's person to have her come visit every once in a while, like a cat consultant. I paced the waiting area of the shelter as Persephone and the others enjoyed their meals. I hated making phone calls, but calling the gallery cranked my anxiety to 11. Usually I was excited to reunite a pet with their human, but Persephone came with no tags in a soggy box. What if she'd wound up here on purpose? I'd use the same criteria I used to evaluate potential adopters to make sure I was returning her to a safe, loving home. Maybe Persephone knew who took the painting. Visions of reward money were definitely dancing in my head. That money could do so many good things for the shelter. I might have borrowed against it when I went on my tuna shopping spree. Gourmet meals weren't part of the Helping Paws budget. "Thank you," she said as she licked her paw after she emptied the bowl. "Haven't had a meal like that in ages." From the looks of her tummy, that was an exaggeration. We'd thought she might be pregnant until Brooke examined her. But I wasn't one to food shame. I thoroughly enjoyed my treats too. "Can you tell me anything else about the stolen painting?" I asked. She stopped licking. "It belongs to Margaret, and they took it when she was sleeping." That was an odd detail. Does Margaret live at the gallery? I'd snuck in as much research about Gallery Bellamy as I could during the day. The owner's name was indeed Margaret, and at the time of the theft, she had been putting together an exhibit of Bernays paintings, set to open next weekend. There was so much buzz around the exhibit, she had to sell advance tickets. "Yes, her house is upstairs. The gallery is downstairs." "And you go back and forth?" I think there were separate doors, like my apartment was separate from my sister's house. "I like the gallery. There's a spot in the window that's good for napping." "Did you see who took the painting?" My imagination had been running wild all day, picturing skinny dudes wearing all black moving soundlessly through the gallery, using acrobatics to dodge an intricate tangle of security lasers, and apprehending them with my trusty sidekick, Persephone. But there were so many questions, like, how did they get in? The articles I read mentioned there was no forced entry. And how and why did Persephone wind up in another state? "2 humans," she said. I groaned, but reminded myself to be patient. She was a cat, and all of this could be a figment of my imagination. That was another reason the phone call gave me the heebie-jeebies. Persephone huffed. "They smelled like dead flowers." "Like perfume?" I was dealing with a cat, and I had to work with what she could give me. "Have you ever smelled that before?" "All the time." This reward money could be a slam dunk if Persephone could be trusted. Could you tell who it was? What was I going to do? Bring her in front of a lineup and tell her to sniff her fill?
"Don't know. A lot of people come in and out of the gallery. Scents linger. But this one, I've smelled a lot."
She might think all humans smelled like that. Or maybe she was picking up on Margaret's perfume. I wish there was another cat here I could talk to, so I could get more insight on how this all worked. "Do I have a scent?" Her eyes brightened.
"You smell like treats."
"What kind of treats?"
"Sweet ones."
The cookies Casey had brought in. They were delicious and easy to pop in my mouth in between all the tasks we needed to do each day to keep the shelter running smoothly. So the scent wasn't a smoking gun, but I wasn't giving up yet. I'd probably only have one chance to talk to Margaret, so I needed to be prepared. What happened after the humans took the painting?
"I followed them. They had no right to take it."
Persephone rose and stretched, indignance oozing out of every pore.
"They brought it through an alley onto the street and loaded into a car."
If Persephone couldn't describe a person to me, she'd never be able to give me critical details on the getaway vehicle, like a license plate number. But that was still pretty good. Then what happened?
"They almost ran over me,"
she huffed.
"I chased them as long as I could. I'm not a kitten anymore, and I lost them."
"Why didn't you get back to the gallery?" I asked. Persephone seemed like a homebody.
"I wanted to find the car. Margaret's painting. Those humans can't get away with this."
She lay down in front of me.
"But I couldn't find them, so I tried to go home."
I wondered how many other animals in my care had stories like this. that they were trying to do a good thing for their human, and it went horribly wrong. How did you wind up in the box?
I made it back home to the alley. There was a box out there, and it had a treat in it. I thought maybe Margaret had left it for me. I don't remember anything else that happened until I woke up and couldn't get out of the box.
Someone had put catnip in that box. Cats passed out if they ate it, which made me think someone wanted Persephone gone. A chill ran down my spine. From Persephone's account, whoever took the painting was familiar with Margaret, and they took her cat away from her. Why? Maybe I should have spent my weekends watching crime shows instead of parking lot potluck. You're really far from the gallery. That didn't deliver the shock value I was hoping for. Cats probably didn't measure things like distance or time like we did. Did you smell anything on the way here?
Chemicals,
she said. Do you know what kind?
No.
She curled her paws in front of her and yawned. She'd been through a lot and had to be exhausted. The clock was ticking on my investigation. I can call Margaret and tell her you're here. I ran my hand over her back. Do you want to go home? It didn't sound like she'd had a bad life, but someone had put her in a box and brought her here for a reason.
I like Margaret, yes, but I also like talking to you,
she said. I like talking to you too, but I couldn't get attached. Tell me about Margaret.
She has a silly nickname for me. So unsophisticated.
What is it?
I'd rather not share that information.
If a cat could blush, Persephone would be bright pink. Come on, tell me. I picked up my phone and swiped to the page I already had open with the gallery phone number. Once I talk to Margaret, she'll probably say it. She made a sound that was supposed to be a growl, but it was more like a moan. I'll probably make up my own nickname for you eventually. She groaned.
Fine. She calls me Purry Pants because my back legs are a different color.
It's cute. Oh, that was a look. I promise I'll never call you that. The phone was still in my hand, with the gallery number on the screen, and I held my breath as I hit send. Gallery Bellamy, Margaret speaking. Her voice had a slight shake to it. Thanks to my research, I had the unfair advantage of knowing a few things about Margaret, sight unseen. She was 70 years old and had recently returned to Boston after living in France for most of her adult life. She came from old money that had fizzled out in the last generation or so. The articles described her as colorful and eccentric. Hi, Margaret. My name is Addie Dawson. I think I might have your cat. Purry Pants? I stifled a laugh at her exclamation. Persephone huffed and turned away from me. Where did you find her? She's been missing since the night of the break-in. I'm not sure if you heard, my gallery was broken into. I'm very sorry for your loss, I groaned. A painting was missing. No one died. Can you tell me a few things about your cat to make sure we don't have a case of mistaken identity? Did you get my phone number from her tag? Interesting. She came without a tag. Would you like to come and see if she's your cat? Yes, of course. There was a long pause. How did you know she was my cat if she didn't have a tag? She matched the description from one of the news stories about a break-in. I hadn't read a story that mentioned the cat, but it didn't mean they didn't exist. I didn't think it must have been Nicole, my niece, who mentioned Purry. She's been so helpful since the incident. She sighed. I couldn't blame her for being rattled. Where is she? At Helping Paws Animal Shelter in Harmony, New Hampshire. Oh dear, that's so far. I'm not sure I can make it there. I'm reluctant to leave the gallery in case the thieves come back for more. Maybe I could send my niece. I'd rather match the owner with the lost pet. and I wanted to see Margaret interact with Persephone in person. Persephone had said I was the first to understand her, but maybe Margaret would know something was different about her pet. And I wanted to put together what I'd learned from Persephone and see if it matched anything that really happened. Not only for the reward money. Margaret sounded like a nice lady, and her cat obviously cared for her. They deserved justice. You're more than welcome to bring her here. The gallery will be open from 10 to 5 all weekend. I could meet with you after hours so we could talk. I'll see you tomorrow night.